Hey, welcome to another episode of the Lion's Den. My name's Matt McKinney, founder of Corleo Advisors. I'm with my business partner and my M&A specialist, Josh Howard, part of Corleo Advisors as well. And today we wanted to talk about the 5Ds. And what most people don't realize is that 50% of business owners get out of business involuntary, right?
Mm,
So,
doesn't sound
right. No, not good, not good. So, death, disability, disagreement with business partners, divorce, and what's the last one I'm missing?
distress.
Distress.
Well, I passed.
You made it. We made it. We made it.
So, Matt, if you could choose one of the five for you, which one would it be?
I mean, I don't know. That's a tough question.
None of them are good.
Yeah.
No.
I don't like any of those options, man. I want to pass on those. But just imagine for a moment you're sitting there and you get a phone call and it's a really good friend of yours. It's friend of yours wife or spouse, friend of your spouse. And they call you and they say, hey, so-and-so has passed away. And you knew that so-and-so had a very big business or had a good sized business with multiple employees. Other than feeling terrible about your friend and emotionally compromised from that, what is another question you may ask about the business? Maybe who's going to take over? You know, what's going to happen next to it? What's going to happen to all those people? What's going to happen to Johnny, who was in the business, but there's no way he's ready? And so very oftentimes the challenge with this is that no one plans for a bad day, but bad days are coming. We all get them, right? We just don't know how bad our day is going to be. And tomorrow's not promised for any of us. And we've had plenty of business owners that we've worked with who have passed away suddenly or had some sort of disability. Obviously one of the most common ones that we see very often is divorce, where, now the new business partner is, Jimmy's wife or Linda's husband, who doesn't know a thing about whatever the business actually was. And now there's a big tug of war, right? And it puts more and more financial pressure under the business. Distress happens with all businesses in some capacity. And sometimes I'm in distress, but so much distress that they have to close up, right?
Yep.
And we know the failure rate of businesses, right? And then disagreement, just business owners can't just swim in the same direction they were for a long time. Now there's got to be this parting of ways. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that amicably? How are we going to do that in a way that doesn't, that is done with grace? It's usually not done with grace. It's usually done with lawsuits and money. And so what can you do? I think that's the question that I would have. Like, hey, what can I do? Like, how can I protect against some of this stuff? So the first thing that comes to mind with me is just having a well thought out operating agreement, right?
Yes.
You start with a good operating agreement, and in there, typically there's spousal consent law in Florida. But one of the things to consider is, hey, if something happens to either of us, the spouse, your partner's spouse, is signing off on the fact that the business interest will stay in the capacity of the person who owns it. And then they'll have to figure out other financial obligations in the event that something happens.
Right.
Right. So I think that that's one way that you can insulate yourself. Death, you can buy some insurance, right? Think about it this way. Insurance dollars are pennies on the dollar. And if you were going to have an unfunded liability of, let's just say $10 million, and you're going to have to use profits from the company, and let's say you're 30% profitability, let's just say is your gross margin, then on $10 million in revenue, that's $3 million. So if you had to pay that liability, how much more revenue would you need? The answer is a lot more, a lot more. Or you could use pennies on a dollar to cover it with insurance, which is relatively simple to do, assuming that you're insurable, right? Disability is a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
because and don't quote me on this, so you're gonna check with your CPA. But after a period of time of a business owner not working in the business, they can't continue to maintain a salary. It'd have to be considered a dividend. And so I think there's some tax ramifications of that, but also the fact that if your business partner is disabled and they're not doing any of the things that they were doing before, and typically you're in partnership because one person does something really well and you do something really well, well, that business is going to suffer too. So how do we?
True.
So there's things like disability buyout insurance that are out there for
Yes.
closely held companies that can help with some of that. But if you're a larger company, it's probably not going to satisfy the whole thing.
Right.
The distress and disagreement part is tough, right? Because you're going to disagree. So, Josh, you've owned multiple businesses, you've exited multiple businesses. Disagreements in business, what do you think has maybe helped you and your partners in the past try to get ahead of some of these things? I mean, some of these things you can't really protect against, but like maybe what are some things or best practices that you think would be um, a good thing to
Yeah.
really to good leadership recommendation maybe for some of the business owners that are out there?
Yeah. Well, I think these two are really hard to walk through. I mean, all of them are difficult,
Yeah,
right? And if they're and we need to think about them all, right?
yeah,
Not just one of them,
sure,
right? And I think you already touched on the first really important thing is to document like what happens if one of these things happen
sure,
through an operating agreement or through the other forms of addendums to those things that we can really help bring clarity
yeah,
if something happens.
sure,
And it's not just clarity for us.
right,
It can be clarity for spouses,
yeah,
clarity for family members, clarity for our operating partners.
yeah,
And you see, so that's the goal is to bring clarity when one of these things happen.
sure,
And so let's take distress, for instance. And distress is just the company is in distress. There might be a capital call,
yeah,
right? There might be a situation where you have to take on more debt. And one partner doesn't feel comfortable with that. And another
yeah,
there we've had major distress happen through the pandemic that happened over a few years. Nobody planned for that.
sure,
Nobody had that in an operating agreement.
right,
And so there's
right, right.
there's these things to really
COVID-19,
Yeah.
Article 7, COVID-19 is going to happen. We're going to shut the world down. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the
It's such foresight.
yeah, absolutely. And prophet. I mean,
Prophetic gifts, I guess.
absolutely. So we need to talk about these things openly. They're not fun to talk about,
Right. Yeah.
right? And so if you are in partnership, or you will have a business that you own solely, and you have a dependent spouse, you need to have the conversation. What happens if the company is goes into distress,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
And what are we going to do, and what we're not,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of know when to hold them and know when to fold them,
Yeah.
even
Sure.
discussions, which is not a fun conversation,
Yeah.
but it's a prudent and wise discussion to have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so on the distress side, you need to really consider those things. And there can be buy-sell agreements
Sure.
that are implemented. Any partner is maybe they've gone to a place where they don't feel comfortable anymore.
Yeah.
And there is a clear action of what to do,
Yeah.
right? Through a buy-sell agreement.
Yeah.
The last one you gave me, divorce.
Disagreement.
Oh, disagreement. Thank goodness.
Disagreement, or you could even say withdrawal, because there's the other part that isn't in there, but withdrawal felony, like, hey, your business partner gets arrested. Like
Yeah.
that's sometimes grounds for an exit that's at a discounted value, or there's some things like that I've seen in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And unfortunately, I've had to live through this disagreement part myself, and have had lawsuits. And what I can tell you is, when it is not clearly defined, you are going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not just going to pay dollars to attorneys. You're going to pay emotionally.
Mm.
You're going to pay through time.
Yeah.
You're going to pay through lost sleep.
Sure.
Most people that go into business together, they go into business together because they like each other, right? You have a relationship.
Yeah.
A lot of times you have relationships with their families,
Yeah.
right? That are very close. And so when a disagreement shows up and there's no documentation on how to handle it, it gets really ugly.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
seen a disagreement where everyone just says, okay, we've disagreed, and we're
Sure.
just gonna treat each other nicely, and we're just gonna walk away, and everyone's gonna be happy. Um, that's just living in a fantasy world. And
Yeah.
so again, it's back to documenting these things,
Sure.
right? And having the discussion. If one of us disagrees, right? And I own 50% and you own 50%, or I own 30% and you own 30%, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Right? How are we going to handle this uh the best way for ourselves, for the company, for the employees of the company, for our families, that's going to cost the least amount as well. And the cost, again, isn't just dollars and cents.
Yeah, I think as best you can, you want to set frameworks for pre-decisions that are going to be difficult, right?
That's right.
So,
Right.
so, so, I think it's important to fight fair, right? And to think about begin with the end in mind. And ultimately, if we set these conditions ahead of time before we're in the storm, when the storm happens, we know what to do.
That's right.
But if we're trying to set the conditions in the middle of a hurricane, it's not going to go well, right? It's not going to go well for me. It's not going to go well for my partner. It's not going to
No.
go well for our family. So, um, you know, just highlighting a couple of things: document everything that you can. Evaluate the 5 Ds: death, disability, divorce, distress, or disagreement. Have action plans in place for all those different things, and set the stage so that in the event these things do occur, that the business can still thrive, your employees can still be employed, your family can still be whole. Like, all these things are important. We had a client who, they had, they both, bought insurance on one another for, and this is a small case, $1 million. And the one person died. They didn't have but it was like a handshake thing.
Mm.
And a buy-sell agreement, right? And it was a cross purchase. So the guy owned the insurance on the other partner, and then he was supposed to pay the spouse. Well, they agreed on $1 million because they both had it.
Mm.
But when the valuation came back, it was less.
Mm.
So even though they had agreed the stated value of $1 million, the spouse got basically half that.
Mm.
Now, I don't know that I could have done that in good conscience, but this other business partner did.
Mm.
And so you got to get it in writing or bad things can happen. And I think ultimately, if there's any cautionary tale, it's how do you go ahead and make sure that things are appropriately documented so that they say the pen is a long arm from the grave. You want to make sure that things are documented down in the event something happens to you along the way, but with all the other 5 Ds that we mentioned. So if you'd like to chat with us more, please reach out to us. Well, there's a link in the chat here for a clarity conversation. See what we can do to be a resource for you, either now or at some point in the future. You can also reach us at www.corleoadvisors.com. And we're just so grateful for you and your participation. Look forward to the next one.